Well, 2 minutes past 8, of course, still driving your business here in your daily Kickstarter. Smart means business. A very good morning once again. How are you doing? How are you set up for the morning? And of course, above all, for the new week. Yes, it's time to get back to business and, enhance profitability. That is in the long run. Well, the markets on the Zabo platform in a few minutes are going to be opening. Start292 hashes the USSD code, which will link you up to quite many of those options. Where you can be able to buy government bonds and securities for as little as 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Of course, the market's opening 8:15 till 3:15 p.m. Monday to Friday. Yes, Monday to Friday, except on the public holidays and the weekends when you won't be in position to access these markets. But of course, you have the rest of the days to capitalize and make quite some huge profits. For you to make sure that you can actually survive efficiently in the country Uganda. Zabu says, my money, my future. And Alltex East Africa says, do something new. Well, now crossing over, it's very important to start your day inspired, of course, by finding out those of your favorite tips. What is that tip that you are going to take for the week? There are some people that say, me, I just need one business tip for the week. I just need a quote that can drive me through making my business successful for this week. And also, there are those that say, I need something that can take me monthly. And as others, it's a yearly. What is that you're doing that you need to hear that is going to be the driving factor for the success of your business as the year goes in through? Well, now let's kick off straight as we take a look at the business tips and quotes. But of course, firstly, let's take a look at the business tip of the day. Of course, the business tip of the day says focus on leads and not sales. Focus on leads, not sales. Okay, that's now the heading. We see that content marketing paired with optimized website forms and intelligent email automation. Content marketing paired with optimized website forms and intelligent email automation follow-up is critical to business success. This approach builds trust by giving away free value before asking for someone's hard-earned money. You see, however much, according to the literal observation here, we see that however much you start a business with the intention of making sales and maximize sales, there is that aspect of what is that is going to convince me to spend my hard-earned money to give it to you as you buy. Now, this, of course, applies to the investors, to the entrepreneur, talking about somebody has to feel the value for their money. If they're giving it out to you there, so many times we tend to focus much on sales and we want to maximize sales, but we never really sit down and try to internalize what are we really creating value. Is what we are giving out to the customers providing a solution for their daily problems. Very key. Content marketing paired with optimized website forms and intelligent email automation. Follow-up is critical for business success. This approach builds trust by giving away free value before asking for someone's hard-earned money. Yes, intelligent email automation. Follow-up is critical to business success. Follow-up. And now this comes back to the entrepreneurs. In most cases, we see some businesses, of course, when you're a customer and you purchase something, an item from them, there is a tendency of, they can try to follow you up to see, how do you find my product? How did you find this product? Literally. So that is something that is going to make the customer feel like, okay, however much if I get a problem with the product that I purchased from these people, there are high chances that actually I can get compensated back because of that. So that alone is enough to build that trust, and somebody will find it easy to release their substance towards your business for profitability. Why? Because you are creating the value for their money that they are paying out there. So it's very key and very important. Just before you think of maximizing sales, concentrate on the leads. From that, regarding the leads in this incident, you can get it in a way that measure on that factor that is leading you to your customers. You know, it's your product that is leading you to the customer. It's your product that connects you to your customer. You know, that connection. Once somebody is able to like your product, once is able to feel your product, definitely that will mean that they will be in position. They will feel a direct contact, and trust will be built in the long run. All right, now let's wind this up as we take a look at the business quote of the day. The business quote, of course, we just did the business tip in there, as we said. Okay, all right. Now, it's the business quote for today. First of all, the author, it was made by Helen Keller, an American author, political activist, and lecturer at the same time. Now, he says, character cannot be developed in ease and quiet. Only through experience of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, ambition inspired, and success achieved. Now, this is quite very key, and I will explain this in relation to our generation, literally, because so many times we feel like we need to be resilient in terms of being able to overcome situations. And we probably assume that this is going to happen in the quietness. You know, reading somebody's trials is not enough for you to be resilient in terms of that. Well, it helps you to give you a clue on how best, it avails you with wisdom on how best you can overcome challenges, just in case they happen. But the true experience that is going to build resilience within you is that you experience personally. Yes, now that's the issue. So many times when we're doing business, for example, and we go through quite a lot. Okay, even away from business, let's take a look at personal character, because it's personal character that determines how far your business will go. So, in most cases, when we go through all these ups and downs, we feel like we are failures in life, which is not actually reality. But of course, getting to know that these are steps to building resilience, which is okay. And most of these seem to be obvious, but think for a second. Sometimes making bad decisions is part of this life, because with bad decisions, depending on what you're going to go through, it's going to make you a better person. It's going to make you a resilient person. That despite the fact that you made a bad decision and you went through trouble, yes, you were able to resist it and went through it. And that means you won't do it again. But still, apart from learning from that situation, you are still being built in terms of being resilient and resistance towards challenges that life presents to you in there. So, that is something that should be put into consideration. That character and strength is not built in silence. It's built through, of course, different experiences are going to come your way. You have to go through all this for you to be complete and to be proved worthy of what you're pursuing. So that is something you need to know. And always be scared if you do something and everything seems to be going right. Yeah, you should. Okay. Because at some point, somewhere, you will be tested with life. You have to be tested, because how best will your generation take it on? Because if you don't know that there is trouble, that there is success, that there are hard times, what will you tell to your next generation? Because what you experience is what you will transfer to your generation. And when the generation grows knowing up that everything has to be okay, because that's what their father told them, their great-grandfather told them. What if there is a generation that will come one day and they will face issues? They will just give up and the empire will collapse at the end of the day. So that is something very key. It's very important for you to, there are no shortcuts to life. There are no shortcuts. We have to go through what we have to go through for us to be what we are today. Well, that is it for the business tips and quotes. Of course, now this very time, let's get into our social media trends as we take a look at what's trending, and it's making some sort of a business sense in there. Well, of course, as they're being prepared in there, let's get into our next update. And of course, this time around, we shall be taking a look at, that is the conflict in sub-Saharan Africa. Of course, the one which just happened recently, which is actually going on, heading in the second week already, which is happening. That is in the country of Sudan, in Khartoum. Yeah, quite very key. But then we want to understand, not only Sudan that has really gone through conflict. Now, quite so many countries in the sub-Saharan Africa have experienced conflicts. And of course, these conflicts have had a great impact when it comes to economic performance and, and the development of the different, of the GDP, quite lots of them. And today we are breaking down those countries that have been heavily affected, of course, by the different conflicts in the country, in those countries. Of course, we see that turmoils have posed significant stains, that is on countries, public finances, and we see that annual growth among its nations estimated at just 2.5 lower. Now, we see that sub-Saharan Africa has been marred by conflicts during the past several decades, while the intensity of conflicts in the recent years is lower than that observed in the 1990s. Now, the region remains prone to conflicts, with around 30% of the countries affected in 2019. And of course, in addition to immeasurable human suffering, conflicts impose large, that is, economic costs. On average, annual growth in countries in intense conflicts is about 2.5 percentage points lower. And cumulative impact on per capita GDP increases over time. Now, we still see that furthermore conflicts pose significant strains and strains on countries' public finances, lowering revenue, raising military spending, and shifting resources away from development and social spending. Now, of course, taking a look at the countries which are largely affected, we see there is the Democratic Republic of Congo. Yes, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, DRC has been plagued by conflicts and violence for decades, with different armed groups fighting for control over its vast natural resources. And the country has lost an estimated 1.4 trillion US dollars in GDP since 1990. Wow, that is quite great. And away from DR Congo, Sudan rather, one of the countries largely affected. Sudan has experienced several conflicts, of course, including the Darfur conflicts and the Sudanese civil war. And of course, by the time this report was released, the current conflict wasn't there. Now, the conflict resulted in the loss of over 300,000 lives and significant economic losses. And now the country's GDP per capita has declined by an estimated 75% since 1980s. Well, that is something to really take into great consideration to what is happening to those countries. And for Uganda, it's a lesson not to really provoke one. Now, let's take a look at Somalia. Somalia has been affected by civil war and conflict since the early 1990s, which resulted in significant economic losses. Now, the country's GDP per capita is estimated to be around $348 million, and is ranked amongst the poorest countries in the world. That is Somalia. Now, switching over to other countries largely affected, of course, as we take a look, so far, Democratic Republic of Congo, Sudan, Somalia, of course, quite other countries affected, right, as we get into the transition. But some other countries are largely affected, include South Sudan. Yes, that is Sudan, which we are looking up to there, but South Sudan in there. But anyway, for a further discussion regarding this, we get to see that in according to the report, that majority of these countries are trying to focus expenditure on military, which in the end diverts funds from public financing and development projects, which could have been very, very key and important for the country's growth, are being diverted to military spending, because majority of these regions are associated with dictatorship in terms of rulers ruling these different countries, which heads to the different to those conflicts related to that. Well, now another country affected is South Sudan, and of course we see that South Sudan gained independence from Sudan in 2011, but plunged into a civil war in 2013. Of course, the conflict resulted in a loss of over 380,000 lives of people, and of course significant economic losses. Now the country's GDP per capita is estimated to be around $286, and is ranked amongst the poorest countries still in the world, just as the same as the country of Sudan. Still in further, we see as we continue, yes, we're reviewing South Sudan. Like I said, South Sudan gained independence from Sudan in 2011, but plunged into a civil war in 2013. Of course, the conflict which resulted in loss of over 380,000 lives and significant economic losses. The country's GDP per capita is estimated at $236 and is ranked amongst the poorest countries in the world. Yeah, that is South Sudan for you there. And now coming in down to Nigeria. Nigeria has always had quite vast conflicts. If you remember the Biafra, yes, when secession, I think it was a secession, when the Biafra state, because of the resources it had within it, and so many other economic benefits, the state wanted to actually secede, a secession. In other words, they wanted to break off from the main country of Nigeria. Now, Nigeria has experienced several conflicts, including the Boko Haram insurgency and conflicts between different ethnic and religious groups. And the conflicts resulted in significant economic losses, including an estimated 3.3 billion in oil revenue losses, of course, due to attacks on oil infrastructure. Yeah, so all these cumulative losses come up, and before in the long run, there is quite a huge impact to the country's growth. It might not be felt for the very first time, probably when they are happening, but they have quite a long-term implication, and some of these impacts can actually be felt in about 5 years, 5 years, 10 years, and all that. Because 3.3 billion, and these are conflicts that really lasted for quite a while, all the way from around 2013, 2014. Yeah, talking about Nigeria. Now, still away from Nigeria, there is currently, Ethiopia is one of the countries that have also been experiencing such, of course, experiencing quite a crisis in the Tigray region. Not until recently, when peace was actually restored, and the different economic activities are now, regaining momentum in that region of Ethiopia, which wasn't the case before. The conflict had eroded quite lots of potential. Majority of Ethiopians had migrated from that region, the Tigray region, and went to other countries to try to find refuge. Maybe a tip on Somalia, away from of course the civil wars which were happening there. Another issue Somalia was battling with the Al-Shabaab, of course, militia group, terrorist group, or you can call it whichever. Away from what we saw about the conflict since 1990s, which resulted in economic losses. Yeah, the Al-Shabaab battling in there, and for quite lots of related aspects, and yeah, having such a huge economic impact onto these related conflicts. But of course, there are quite lots of aspects in there. But Nigeria has also really had it quite rough for it. In the 3.3 billion is quite a huge loss in the revenues. And also Ethiopia being part of these countries that have been heavily affected by conflict. Of course, by, like I told you, the Tigray region, which was heavily, of course, experienced with massive attacks from different militant groups. And, you know, lots of funding that are coming in there because there is need to buy machines, you know, weapons, all these war-related vehicles and all that. And yet all these funds could have been very, very impactful if they are spent effectively. And you get to realize that that is affecting the performance of these countries' economies in the long run. Well, 23 minutes past 8. Of course, don't forget the markets on the Zabu platform. As I speak right now, just a few minutes back, the markets opened. Start 292 hash is the USSD code. Definitely, what are you waiting for? With as little as 15,000 Ugandan shillings, you are going to be able to buy government bonds and securities. Yes, of course, you can invest more, or you can choose to, you know, invest the exact minimum requirement there. 8:15 a.m. till 3:15 p.m. when the markets are in operation. From today, Monday, till Friday. Yes, till Friday. And except on the weekends and the public holidays, when you won't be in position to access the markets, that will be quite very tricky for you. But of course, you have the rest of the days to capitalize and make some quite huge profits there, and which is something very key. Zabu says, my money, my future. And Notex East Africa says, do something new. It's a revolution. Well, 24 minutes past 8, now coming to the end of our update 2. We're going to get into a short commercial break, and definitely coming up is the business and entertainment. Definitely taking a look at what are those movies that have been making money throughout the week, that is the previous week. And of course, that will be quite very grateful for the local movie makers as you get inspired, and Africa at the same time, and East Africa region at the same time, to make sure that maybe with the time we shall be having our movies also amongst the lists of the most profitable movies. Good morning.